Greetings from sunny South Florida. It's time for the Palm Beach Podcast. And the hosts of your show, sports chiropractor and athletic trainer, Dr. James Spencer. Photographer and art director, Mike Jones. Recorded live at the Media Zone Podcast Studio in Palm Beach County. Relax and enjoy the show. Hello and welcome to the Palm Beach Podcast. My name is Mike Jones. I'm here at Media Zone with my co-host James Spencer.
Always good to see you, bud.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a special day because we have a great guest. Why don't you introduce who we have here today, Spence?
Yeah, we got Hunter Joslin. We got the owner of Indo Board, the founder, the legend. I know Mike and I are very, very fortunate to have you in here today, and a lot of friends are going to be very jealous.
Oh, that's an honor to have you say such a thing. That's very kind of you.
Yeah, well, listen, we all grew up with an Indo Board in our house. I know just from a teenage years all through college and everything else. So we were telling everybody you were coming on, so they were stoked for us.
Well, cool. Yeah, no, it boggles my mind that here I am, 22. This is into my 22nd year, and I started in August 28th of 98. So as it all comes around, so I'm deep into my 22nd year, and for the life of me, I don't know how I got here.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
And from Palm Beach County originally.
That's it. I grew up here, moved here in 1962, and left and went up the coast of Melbourne Beach in 1980. So in between, I'd lived in North Palm Beach, grew up and went to Howell Watkins Junior High and Riviera Beach High School, which is no more. We were the last graduating class of Riviera Beach High School.
Oh, wow.
1969's mighty fine.
Love it.
So when I decided to move to Melbourne was to get more waves.
Yep.
There's just not enough surf here in the summer.
That's true.
Yeah, I actually had my first summer in Palm Beach County, and I'm pretty spoiled because I lived in Australia for a few years and up in North Florida and Jax before that, where there's more waves than down here, and definitely the Bahamas and
Bahama Bank. Damn it!
Yeah. But when the waves are on here, it's pretty special. Very blue water, sea life everywhere. I see turtles pretty regularly out front, and that's always just such a cool experience.
Sure. We used to paddle across Palm Beach Inlet to Surf Reef Road with only 2 or 3 people out back in the good old days. Yeah.
I was going to ask, what's your favorite spot in Palm Beach?
On Reef Road.
Yeah.
No. My buddy Scott McCrannels, I'd stay at his house. When I moved up north, I didn't miss, for the first 10 years I was up there, I didn't miss a Reef Road swell. I was down here. We know the weather. We figured it all out. And so I'd crash at his place. I mean, every now and again it would miss. It wouldn't manifest, but more often than not, we'd be the first ones in the water.
Can't beat that.
I can't believe that you paddled across that inlet, man. There's a lot of water moving there.
Yeah, we didn't do it a lot, but we did it a few times.
For when it was really, really worth it.
Oh, yeah.
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 Yeah, because it's there's some big sea life that swim through those waters.
Oh, we never even thought about it.
And so you're growing up a surfer in Palm Beach County. When does Indo Board start to become an idea in your mind?
It taught me to surf.
But when did you start thinking,
the evolution of it? I took life-saving courses at North Palm Beach Country Club, and the gal that taught the life-saving lessons had 2 homemade balance boards, rectangular and wooden rollers.
Okay.
And she used that for just playing around in between sessions and teaching the life-saving class, and everybody liked it. Well, a year later, I got a job as a lifeguard at the country club, and I went up in the attic to get something, and there's the 2 balance boards, and her name was Alma Beck, and she no longer worked there. They had been there since the year before, so I took it upon myself to liberate them.
You're a smart man.
Yeah, so gave one to a buddy of mine, Jay Jones, and I took the other one and spent 2 days in my garage on concrete learning it, 6 hours each day. And after 2 days, I had it pretty wild. And I was doing things that, I was doing shove-its and things that didn't even exist in skateboarding. And it was just tricks. I learned how to cross step. And literally, I was on the swimming team as well. So when I go surfing, I was in the pool 6 days a week, and I go surfing on Sunday. I could surf better than 95% of my friends. And what's going on?
Exactly.
So me and Jay, he had one, and our circle of friends in North Palm Beach would have contests. So we broke it down till we put a plank on it with no stops on the end. These all Indo boards have stops, most of them. And we had no stops on a plank and had a hang 10 contest. How long can you hang 10 without letting the board touch the ground? And I got 13 and a half minutes.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, try doing that.
It's a long time.
It's hard. Yeah, it's a long time. But anyway, I taught myself cross-stepping. I mean, the intricacy of cross-stepping is the basis of what the Indo board is all about, because you have to stay centered. Your core has to be good. You can't be bent over. You're out of center. It's not going to work. And so to be smooth on a surfboard is the exact same thing. Mm-hmm. So my cross-stepping was excellent due to an Indo board and doing my homework at night. I'd come home from swimming in the swimming pool and literally with my books in hand stand on the balance board that I had. So 10 years later, after I went to college, I took it to college with me. It was always with me. And I got in the surf industry in 73 at Lower East Side Surfboards in Jupiter.
Okay.
Started sanding surfboards, and we made resin tables for restaurants and bars and surfboards. So we had a wood shop and all this wood and a lathe, because this guy was a master woodworker that was putting our tables together. And he had a lathe, and I asked him if he could turn a roller for me. And at the same time, I was having skimboards made, cutting them out and beveling the edges, and they were 24-inch circles. One day I put a skimboard on top of the roller, and suddenly I had more ability to do maneuvers. The shove-its and things were much easier than a rectangle. Mm-hmm. And so the circle morphed into an oval, what we have today. It was bigger than this. This is 30 by 18, and what it morphed into was 32 by 24. The disc was 24-inch skimboard. Mm-hmm. So I kept the 24 and went 2 inches longer than this. But the yield on a sheet of plywood doesn't allow that to make this. If I kept it at 32 by 24, the cost would be through the roof. Yeah, sure. So I get more yield out of plywood now. But anyway, back then, and the roller was solid wood, which made it was heavy. Now, what we use now is hollow plastic, and it's light. So there's tricks that I could do and can still do on a wooden roller that I can't do on that, because the roller will move, and you have no idea where it's going to go, where it is going when you need to land.
Sure.
And wipeouts are no fun. And
I got a few of those.
Yeah. So the wooden roller stays right where you want it to go, and I do these spin-up tricks, like put the deck on the edge of the roller and the edge of the deck on the floor, and stand and spin up in a 360 up and land, and do it every time. And you can't do it on a plastic roller because the roller moves.
Yeah. Interesting.
But
it's so cool to hear you say how you like brought this from like high school to college, and you brought this thing with you, because we also did the same thing. Yeah. We grew up in Venice, Florida, so big shout out to all the guys at Zap Skimboards down there.
Bob Smets and the boys.
Yeah.
And I learned how to do a shove-it on an Indo board, because you can't practice as much surfing and skimboarding because it requires the right conditions. You need like the right waves, the right wind. I mean, the Gulf Coast is super fickle. We all know that. And so growing up on the Gulf Coast, I think the Indo board was a way for, if you can't get to the skate park, if you can't get to the beach, you can train, you can practice your balance, and you will be better
totally
the next time that you're out riding.
Right. Well, that was my premise here, because we're on the East Coast, and certainly in Palm Beach County, that we get more exercise in the surfing genre than the guys in California. They get to surf almost every day, and we don't. So that was my basic premise of when I started marketing it. It's a surf training, and the broad picture is the term repetitive. A basketball player shoots baskets all day long. Tennis player bangs a tennis ball against the wall. Surfing, you get an Indo board. And I had Justin Quintal got one from me.
Hey.
Too. I have to throw his name out there.
Shout out.
And the now current world champion.
Congratulations.
And when I was
Jack's
announcing,
Beach.
the longboard contest, Justin showed up, and he was, I think, 13 or 14 the first thing. And he had skills, but he fell at the wrong time. And we were at a trade show at the Surf Expo, and he was there with his dad, and he came over, and I actually made him buy one. I didn't give it to him. and I don't know why, because I give away an awful lot of them to guys that earn them. But for some reason, I felt like I wanted him to earn it. And I saw him 6 months later, and he came up to me and he said, riding my longboard is just like riding an Indo board. I'm got it so wired, and he's doing it. So he went out and he won the contest, and he didn't fall. Mm-hmm. And he made a video for me. One buddy of his wanted an Indo board, and he called me up and he said, well, my buddy'd like an Indo board, but he'll make a video. So we edited a video of Justin surfing and then riding the Indo board, the pro model, the long one, 42 inches.
Yeah.
And mirrored what he did on the wave with what he did on the Indo board. And you can find it on YouTube.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
For me, when he came up to me and said, when I'm surfing, I'm just riding my Indo board. And again, that was a good 10 years ago, because I went to Hawaii with him and his dad for one of the contests in Hawaii, the Duke contest in the summer, I think it was 2005 or 6. And he was 15, started doing his homework, and he was just a great kid all around. So I've been around. I've got pictures in my phone of every U.S. Open of surfing after he won 5 in a row. I got a picture of him because I'm at the U.S. Open of surfing every year. Mm-hmm. Got a picture of me and Justin every year.
Surfing world's a small world, boys.
Well, and that's a proud moment too for you.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Got to be.
Yeah, it thrills me, and it goes to so many other surfers. I mean, and skiers like Lindsey Vonn. I mean, you got somebody that's an Olympic champion, but my list of Olympic champions is way beyond Lindsey Vonn. Goes on and on.
Sure. And honestly, when did you see the vision of this product being this big, or this idea being this big?
I knew that I would be successful because of the bongo board.
Okay,
the bongo board was patented and marketed in 1958 and went out of business in 1982. And the story I heard was, and I was in negotiation, had an attorney, we wrote a letter, sent to bongo board and said, I have a design, I'd like to work with you, can we do something? And they sent me a few letters kind of stringing me along, and it was right in 1982, and suddenly they didn't answer. And apparently an elderly, wealthy matron in New York City fell and broke her femur and sued them and put them out of business.
No way.
Mm-hmm. And in 82, they disappeared. So there was no balance boards for a gap.
Is that why the disclaimer?
Absolutely. I make no bones about it. In fact, the first prototypes, it was a little smaller than that, and now I've made it so that's 3/4 of an inch high on this one.
Sure.
But on my natural, the one I have in the bag there, it's over an inch.
Damn.
So I want it prominent. I don't make any. I always warn people. I always tell people. I said I make no joke about it. You will fall.
Yeah.
It is part of the process. So.
Well, and you mentioned this one has stoppers. And for the people that have never been on an Indo board before, there's like a little wooden block on the edge so that if it rolls off, it hits and will slow you down or stop you.
Yeah. And
there's other versions of the boards which do not have the stoppers.
Correct.
And those are the ones that get really dangerous. We had like a snowboard model. We use skateboard decks.
Yeah.
I mean, I know Spence even jumps on it and just rolls on his feet with no deck.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great for your instep, but it's also a good balance as well.
Exactly.
But what you're talking about, you're teaching walking, the roller is perfect for that.
Yep.
Yeah.
I actually, so you said you would study on your Indo board. When I was in chiropractic school, that's exactly my study break. I would roll around either on the roller or jump on the Indo board and mess around just to get a little bit of peace of mind and a different topic, so it was cool.
And what's really cool is that we grew up with an Indo board, and I can clearly see that it's influenced Spence in his business because, he's really becoming someone that's, spending a lot of time researching and working with athletes on balance and being barefoot and barefoot stimulation. And it's cool to see that some idea that you had that you carried along could have such an impact on, someone that works in high performance with high performance athletes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the metamorphosis that it started in 2002 that I had no idea. I mean, somebody told me one time, okay, it works great on your legs. You got to invent something for arms. It didn't occur to me to do a push-up on the board on the roller. I just said, yeah, God, I have to think of something. And serious as a heart attack. I missed it. It's right there. And now, I mean, it's one of the more, if you do it correctly, it's one of the more difficult push-ups you can do.
100%. I can attest to that.
And I think you have to give a shout out to your social media manager, because I've learned a lot of exercises from your Instagram page. And Georgette,
she's my former girlfriend. We lived together for 16 years and didn't work out. She moved back to California, and she's passionate. She was there when I began the company, so she knows she knows it all.
She knows the ins and outs.
She's the sweetest human being on the planet, and everybody loves her. That their interactions, like you do with Instagram and Facebook, everybody loves her. She's got the kindest heart in the world.
You can tell.
And she means it. She's dead serious, and she does a great job. And I'm thankful that she came into my life, because I don't know who else could do it.
Sure. And even to see how she's been more of a prolific portion of the business that A, you may not want to handle, or B, you just don't have the time to handle.
I don't want to handle it.
Exactly.
I'm not a slave to my phone. I do not do emails on my phone. I will never send a tweet, and I do not do Instagram. I don't care what anybody else is doing to that extent. I do Facebook. I've backed off of Facebook.
Cheers to that real quick. I like that. Because too many people are influenced through that versus having the creative mind. So cheers to that.
Yeah, well, thank you. But, it throws people off, because they expect if they send you an email, they want an answer right back because they're on their phone. Well, where is this guy? And even a text, I sometimes let the text go until I feel comfortable and have the time to deal with it. But I'm 68. I'm an old school.
I respect that.
I'm a boomer. I just found out I'm a boomer. We have a title now.
You wear it proudly.
I think there is something to say about this surfing world being a little more lackadaisical. Not to say that we won't go and do our work, but if there's waves, like we've just learned how to adapt, and we just live a different life than most people.
Yeah, people's consciousness isn't quite like ours is.
Yeah.
Because a saltwater fix is like getting heroin for some people. You just got to have it for all the different reasons. And electrolytes from the saltwater is great, but also the peace of mind and where we go becoming childlike is probably the biggest thing, because we're just big fucking kids. When we get out on a surfboard. That's all there is to it. No matter what age you are, you're a big fucking kid playing, having a good time.
I know, Mike, I'm going to cut you off. I know you just said that yesterday.
Yeah. We had Greg Norman Jr. in here yesterday, and, I'm seeing a lot of parallels because, one, the repetition and the practice of a water sport that you can't normally get with a cable park, but two, just getting out there and having some fun and letting it all go and letting your inner kid come out. We literally said that yesterday with Greg in the podcast. So shout out to the Shark Park and everything that they're doing out there.
Yeah, no, but
cheers.
The inner kid is what we're all about. I mean, we're just big kids, and certainly that's frustrating to women since we're men. And there's women surfers, and I'm sure that if they're with a guy that doesn't surf, they're going to frustrate them. So
even Greg's missus yesterday was like, he's had an excuse for how good the waves were every day this week. It's funny.
He's a smart man.
Yeah. No, we got to find a way to get in the water.
Yes, sir.
That's it.
That's so cool. So you grew up as a surfer in Palm Beach County, and you need more waves. So what do? What happens?
Well, my first surf trip was in 1973 to Costa Rica. And we went to Tamarind. We just went to a map store and bought charts of the entire country, and just said, "Well, this looks like a setup." And we went to Tamarindo.
Perfect.
There was nothing in Tamarindo. There was not a house. They were digging the footers for the Hotel Diria, and that was the only construction there. There was no houses. Nobody lived on the hills.
That's
there was
incredible.
Absolutely nothing. And we went back a year later, and I had the best surf I've ever had in my life to that point. The river mouth was breaking 2 to 3 feet overhead, straight offshore, absolutely perfect rights and lefts. And I'm a goofy foot. The lefts were better than the rights. Had the best waves of my life on that trip. We went back a year later. Unfortunately, the swell direction was wrong, but the Deary had I think like 15 rooms open.
Perfect.
So we stayed at the Deary for a night, a couple nights. We went down to Nosara. We drove into Nosara, and they told us, we got there and had lunch. There was a big development there, and they told us, well, if you don't turn around and leave right now, there's a good chance that you will not be able to leave for the next 4 months. Because it was this rainy season,
yeah.
and you could see turn around and go look to the east, and the mountains were just covered with clouds. So we drove in. The first stream we drove through was of no consequence. We drove through 7 different major streams.
Nosara's far from the airport.
Yeah, it's far from the main road.
Yeah.
At that point in
I
time.
know exactly where it is.
We drove out, and we almost flooded on the first one that we crossed coming in, which was the last one going out. We almost flooded and sank the Jeep right there.
Shit.
So the warning was, it wasn't that dire because it does slack up and the streams don't flow quite as heavily. But that was a scary. We didn't get to surf. The surf was pumping.
What a trip! What a trip!
And then this eventually got you to move up to Melbourne, right?
Yeah.
Why did you identify that area?
Well, number one, it was real difficult being in the surf industry in Palm Beach County. I would go to work with. I was in the skateboard industry, and go to the local television station to do some ads, and walk in dressed like this, and the people looked at me like I was fucking out of my mind. What do you want here? What do you have to do? And I said, well, I'm here to buy some advertising and work with my production guy. And, oh, okay. So that was just one reason. But the surfing industry is not a well-known industry in Palm Beach County.
Sure.
In Brevard County, it is. So for me to go up there and be part of the surfing community, because the majority of surfboard manufacturers in the day were there. There still are. There's more in Brevard County than any other county in Florida. And the surf industry was prolific up there. So I went up there and was very comfortable and found my way. And there's more surf. There's surf
Sebastian
during the
Inlet,
summer.
right?
Sebastian Inlet. I live 4 miles north of Sebastian Inlet, so I surf there every day.
Do you ever see Kelly out there just on a random day?
Well, that was another 10 years later.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, no, I've known Kelly since he was 9 years old.
Wow.
I know his family's very close. I know his mom really well, Judy. She's a complete trip. I love her. She's so entertaining. Steven, I longboarded with him around the world, and Sean surfed with him all over the world as well. And they're great. I wasn't as close to Kelly. We certainly know each other. He'll go out of his way to come over and talk to me whenever I run across him. Kelly's one of the most magnificent human beings on the planet.
Yep.
But
Never feels like he's in a rush. Like, I don't know. I've had some run-ins with him in the water in Australia, and he hears the accent, and he appreciates it. They go USA, and because it's tough paddling for waves out on the Gold Coast. It's very crowded.
Duramba.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's a battleground out there.
Yeah. Well, all of them are now. Back when I owned a bikini company. I was doing business weird. The bikini company was founded. Senior moment here. The next point to the north of Kira.
Burley Heads.
No, in between Burley Heads.
Currumbin
Alley. So I surfed Currumbin Alley. I don't know how many times with just handfuls of people out.
Such a cool spot.
Yeah. No, I love Currumbin Alley.
And before we went live today, we had a discussion about how training has become like a sort of a new thing in the surf world within the last 5 years. You see a lot of trainers having a coach and a trainer. And you mentioned that Australians were kind of, very competitive, and we're doing this before that. What's your thoughts on the surf industry, using tools like this and actually taking it serious in training? Because the Olympics are coming up, and it's very serious now, right?
The nature of where the sport has progressed to has created the necessity of this kind of training, because now surfers are acrobats. I mean, you don't see Cirque du Soleil guys going in there and doing what they do without training their ass off. And guys that are throwing airs that are 8 feet out of the lip of the wave and rotating and trying to land those. That's acrobatics. And if you're not trained and ready for it, you can't do that. Right?
Yeah.
It's just literally impossible. So the progression of where the sport is today has necessitated that across the board, but the Australians grasp it because they're the whole nature of sporting in Australia is based on training. I mean, Australians always train for everything. Mm-hmm. And 70% of the population lives on the coast, whether they surf or not, but they're all running, they're doing something. They're one of the most active countries in the world in that way. And so training to them was not foreign. That's why Tom Carroll in the 80s kind of started the thing for surfers when he was rehabilitating from injury. He was the first one to really take it dead serious. Mick Fanning, he's one of the newer guys, and he didn't train until he got injured. And when he came out of injury, Taj Burrow, the same thing, that both of those guys got injured, and their only way back onto the pro tour was training prolifically, and it changed their lives.
So you mentioned like running like through sand or up hills and stuff, and I actually have seen Mick running up hills at the Duranbah Point.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah. No.
Sweating his ass off. And just running like almost like it's such a steep hill.
Leg strength.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to run, go up a hill because it's getting you the same movements that you're getting in a tube squat or in a powerful bottom turn or a redirection off the top. Same stuff.
Well, it's just interesting to see how the mentality of, do I need to be strong to paddle in? Yeah,
certainly.
Sure. But you actually need to have a lot of leg strength to make these turns, to propel yourself. So it's really cool to see a tool like the Indo Board apply to so many athletes. Like I know James in his facility has PGA golfers, MLB players, very, very accomplished athletes that jump on this, and it's fun. It challenges them mentally. There's just something different about balance sports. And, I'm just so grateful that you've created a tool that's, really grown with us personally and professionally.
Yeah.
And I think one thing, too, that the Indo Board complements is the flow state. I think it allows people to tap into it quicker than they may not even know how to do. Because if you're not present fully, you're not going to be able to stand or balance on that damn thing.
Yeah, no, you have to focus.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and breathing. One of the aspects that kind of complements all of this is now kind of brand new in a lot of areas is proper breathing.
Yes, sir.
Diaphragmatically correct breathing will change your world. It'll change your life. If you've never heard, anybody out there, if you have not heard about the breathing thing, go and learn about yoga style breathing. It's diaphragmatically correct. We breathe from our diaphragm. Mm-hmm. We need oxygen. We're shallow mouth breathers and we don't get enough oxygen. You can change your life simply by breathing, and it's free. It's available every day.
I love it.
If you have anxiety, if you have trouble sleeping, if you wake up in the middle of the night, if you breathe correctly, you will change your world. And I believe I've done it myself.
That's the first thing, like as a developmental process, that's the first introduction to the external world is the breath, right? So I think there's a lot of benefit, like you're saying, to some people that may need to breathe more often or even just be aware of their breath, because most people are so disconnected they don't even realize they're having a shallow breath.
Yeah, but if you understand the mechanics of breathing, in shallow upper chest breathing, you're not exchanging oxygen because the carbon dioxide rests in the lower lung, and the diaphragm is just across the face of the lower lung. So in order to get the carbon dioxide out of your lower lung, you need to expand your diaphragm and exhale with your diaphragm. And when you do that, you're introducing oxygen, the average person, to an area that never gets it.
Ever.
And that's what changes your life, because you are oxygenating, and oxygen is what we live on, and oxygen works in the brain, works in the body, and it's amazing. Anxiety, out the door. Breathe. You feel anxious about anything, diaphragmatic breathing will change that.
I agree. I think also it creates a more of a kinetic awareness whether it's your just a movement awareness that, oh, I didn't even realize like that area that was painful wasn't getting enough oxygen or enough flow to that area, right?
Yeah.
And I find it ironic when I evaluate people that a lot of people just aren't aware of it. And
The
we'll have big breakthrough moments, whether it's physically or mentally, just by taking them through a little bit of the breath.
Absolutely. Now, a good friend of mine, I don't know if you've heard of foundation training.
Oh, yeah.
So Eric.
I know Eric well.
Yeah, Eric's a good buddy of mine. And Eric, when he first started foundation training, was missing one aspect. In his first DVDs,
Yes,
they
sir.
didn't talk about breathing. And I went and he let me take the course. And at that point in time, they had incorporated breathing into it, and it
Correct.
changed the whole thing.
Did
And
you ever see his TED Talk?
No.
He did a great TED Talk on the basis or idea around foundation
Mm.
training. And, it's helped a lot of people, helped a lot of my patients. I can tell you that.
Oh, absolutely. Well, Georgette, she was bedridden with lower back pain, and I told her, "You get a hold
Go
of
see him.
Go get a hold of Eric." No, they were his guys that
traveling?
work with him.
Yeah.
Got on every day. She'd get on the phone or on the computer,
app,
and,
right?
and she would converse. And she brought herself from being bedridden for 4 months and no surgery whatsoever,
It's
to where
beautiful.
she's surfing again and doing all that. So, close to me, I watched it happen, but that's what foundation training was developed for. Was Eric had low back problems and he didn't want surgery, and so he, through whatever genius entered into his mind, came up with foundation training, and it's just phenomenal. Kahea Hart talked about.
Yes, sir.
He said, "What do you do when you start the day?"
You saw that post?
No. They're interviewing Kahea, and they ask him, "Okay, you're training Billy Kemper. How do you start your day?"
Sure.
And he says, "First, breathing. Second, foundation training."
Yep.
Yeah.
I saw Eric had that post the other day. That's why I was like, oh, all right, I like it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. No, I saw it live on the broadcast.
Attaboy.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
Billy won the invitationals, right?
Yes, he
yeah.
did.
So
Yeah.
he's in the contest right now.
Yeah, he's
they might
out now.
decide, They might decide the world champ today, right?
Yeah.
If it's running, I'm not sure if
if
they're
they
running.
get through. They finished round 3 yesterday, so they got 4, 5 quarters and semis and finals. So they could possibly, if they wanted to, if the conditions were
push
that
it.
good. They don't have to, because they still have plenty of window, and the Jaws is going off today.
Yeah.
So Billy
Excellent.
bombed out yesterday, unfortunately, and
But took a plane.
Took a plane, and he's in his element.
Yes,
so he's
sir.
2-time defending champion. So see what happens. But
Yes, sir.
but Billy's, his whole thing in Kahea about the importance, if he's going to be on a mission to be in the free surfing world, not just big waves, but he wants to do it all. And the only way their highway is, their path is training
Mm-hmm.
prolifically.
So I'm going to digress from our surfing and sports talk, because now that we have you down here in Palm Beach County, let's talk about some things that you like to do down here, some places that you like to go. Where do you like to have a bite to eat, a beer?
Oh my gosh! Well,
I know we talked about the surfing museum before, so
Yeah.
let's give a couple shout outs here.
yeah, sure. I'm a foodie and a wino.
I love
I've
it.
got 160 bottles of wine in my cooler back at home, and so I like good wine. I like great food. I travel the world, and I use Google Maps to find the highest rated restaurants and try to afford myself that luxury. So the funny thing here in Palm Beach County, it all starts with the Reef Grill
Yes,
in
sir.
Juneau, and then the metamorphosis to the Food Shack, and then the Leftovers, and then the Culinary Cafe. They're all bastard childs of the Reef Grill. Charlie's planted some deep seeds here, and that to me is the best restaurants in North County. And I'm sure there's plenty of great places in the South County, but I'm from North County, so I'm in that
You hang out up here,
bastardization.
yeah, I
I'm
love
with
it.
those bastards.
Hey, we're cool. We're fans of the Food Shack. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I tried to go to Culinary Cafe, and they had a private party last night, and it was closed. So they gave us 20% discount cards, and so next time I'm in town, I'll go to Culinary and get 20% off.
Take advantage of that.
That's it.
So what's the future? What do you see as far as the growth for Indo Board?
Growing is difficult because I'm knocked off left and right.
Mm-hmm.
I owned the category up until about 5 or 6 years ago, and now it's flooded by, I got one company in North Carolina that copies everything I do. They
That's
now
hard. Yeah,
they started in 2012, and on their new balance boards it says the original balance board.
How can you claim that?
But how can you claim that? They, you go on their website and it says about us. In 2012, I didn't like good balance, blah blah. You guys done nothing, been nowhere, and didn't create anything.
Correct.
I work with the trainers, with the athletes. I do the workout. I work with guys that I blow their minds, and they respect that I can do what I'm telling them to do.
Correct.
But I also came up with what it is that they're doing. So the knockoffs. I got a company in California. I went out and I did a fitness show in Northern California, and some guy I remember was kind of an old, heavy guy, and I kind of wondered what he was doing. And there's a knockoff that took the artwork and everything and sent it to China and just knocked it off verbatim. Changed a couple little things so that I didn't have a lawsuit. But he comes in and he's selling $40 cheaper than I am.
That's bullshit.
But he's got no DVD. Doesn't have any. I have a poster DVD. I've got all the stuff. And, you go to my website and you can learn how to do all this stuff.
Yes, sir.
And one thing that I'll raise is that I kind of feel like Indo Board has done what Kleenex has done for the tissue.
Totally.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't even call that a balance board. I would just call it an Indo Board, right? Like,
and a lot of people do. We are the Kleenex of the balance board.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I'm aware of that. In fact, I had a guy call me the other day and he said, I went on the site of the North Carolina company and looked at their emails or whatever their things, and there's all these people calling them out, saying that's not an Indo Board. Indo Board started this thing.
That's awesome.
So I got a lot of people that are defending me out there,
and I think it's one of those things where you almost just have to take it as a compliment,
Oh, I guess who is it? It's a form of flattery, but the thing is, they're killing me business wise. So you asked what my growth is for the future and what to do. I would scratch my head constantly trying to figure it out. I've introduced a few different things. We did a yoga board to take advantage of stand-up paddle yoga.
Yeah.
And that didn't last very long.
Okay.
Stand-up paddle yoga is kind of, you don't even hear about it anymore.
Sure.
And I developed, I patented it. I spent more money trying to market and bring that to the forefront than anything I've done. And that was in 2011 and 12. And we sold quite a few for the first 2 years, and then it just died. And I dated this gal who was into yoga for 25 years, and she said, "You don't do yoga." And I said, I do my own form of stretching, which is a yogish thing, but you don't practice it and as a yogi. And she said, "We're not into the exercise. The average 95% is into the breathing, the relaxation, the stretching, and the calmness it brings. And stand-up paddle yoga, there's nothing calm about it because you're working your ass off."
Sure.
Yeah.
And it worked. I mean, what I developed worked exactly the way I was supposed to work.
There's a lot of community with the yoga stuff too. Like
yeah.
their tribe and all that stuff.
Yeah, a huge thing. And the product does everything I said it would do. And it's still a great product, but I can't sell them.
Well, you know what? I think it's with the networking power and the education and experience that Spence have. I really do feel like we can help bring Indo Board to more people because, for example,
definitely,
Greg here yesterday. There's no reason that Greg shouldn't have. He's talking about having like a summer school to have kids trained up, and
should have them
no
there.
reason that they shouldn't be warming up on the Indo Board.
Totally,
muscle memory type stuff. And so really, I would say that in terms of Indo Board, I think it has such a positive connotation just because of the people behind the brand, like you and Georgette and the people that you sponsor. For sure we grew up with Indo Boards, and I think that there's definitely a place, with sports becoming so much more competitive and training specific. James works with equestrian athletes who ride horses.
Absolutely.
All day long. They're balancing, but you don't really realize it. And so maybe there's just some untapped markets where The surf world knows what an Indo Board is.
Well, they're all untapped, but I have worked with trainers and athletes from equestrian, from basketball. I got a guy who is a center for the Phoenix Suns and Orlando Magic. He's 6'11", Patrick Burke, and he's training with. I have a couple they drank the Kool-Aid. They live and breathe Indo Board. They're up in Claremont, Florida.
Beautiful spot.
They're training Patrick Burke, and he is posting videos every day. And the newest one says, I have no affiliation with Indo Board. They don't pay me. I'm telling you this of my own volition. This is an unbelievable product. I wish I had it 20 years ago. And so that's basketball. You mentioned golf. I work with Annika Sorenstam's trainer. There's a picture in the back of her autobiography of Annika Sorenstam on an Indo Board. I made a specific deck for her that was a little bit smaller because she wanted one that she could travel with. And so I made that deck for her for my air cushion. I don't know if you know about the Indo Flow cushion. So I made that deck, and that deck became our children's deck. It's a smaller size, and with a small 5-inch roller rather than the 6.5 that you see here, it's a children's size.
Okay.
But Annika was the person that did that.
Wow.
I work with the archery. One of the key members of the silver medalist team for archery in the 2012 Olympics. And I started working with him right after 2008. He was injured at the Olympic Training Center in San Diego. And I went there and specifically gave him an Indo Board and came back a few months later. And we shot video that's on YouTube. You can find it. And they won the silver medal.
It's incredible.
The first time ever. And
That's
then
incredible.
Then they repeated it in the next Olympics, 2016. So the diversity, we have jiu-jitsu. Cabrina, who is the #1 guy in heavyweight jiu-jitsu and world famous. You mentioned Cabrina to anybody in Brazilian jiu-jitsu, they know.
They know. Yeah.
He was posting videos. Joel Tudor came up to me at the U.S. Open 5 years ago and says, what are you paying Cabrina? And I go, who the fuck's that? And I went online and I found him and saw the videos. He says he's posting videos of Indo Board use. And so we contacted him and sent him a bunch of product, and he still posts stuff to this day. But now we have, I think, 4 or 5 different world jiu-jitsu champions that have contacted us, and we've sown the seeds out with them. So the jiu-jitsu, all these communities are viable markets. There's just not enough money and not enough me, because I'm the only one in my company that does what I do.
Yeah.
So, I'm restricted, so I focus mainly on board sports because that's what I do. And I went last summer for a new show in Chicago, a consumer show called put on by Outside Magazine. It's called The Outside Adventure. And we did great up in Chicago. Chicago is mind-boggling. I don't know if
that city, yeah.
So they called me yesterday, and it was inside last year, and they want to do it outside this year. I go, well, that makes sense because it's Outside Magazine. Right. But then you throw the weather into it, and I have to drive all the way up to Chicago to take the product.
Fuck.
So anyway, it crosses over all these different sports. And I just don't have enough time and enough money to market to each individual. Hockey, I got a guy contacted me. He's got a mail order company, sells hockey equipment, says we need to have a balance board. He sold out. He bought 48 of them. He sold out of them in 3 hours.
That's incredible.
Well, and what a cool compliment that these people are like tagging you. And because I know Spence has never been paid by Indo Board or given an Indo Board as far as I know.
Right.
But it's that it actually works for you, that you actually enjoy it as part of your training and recovery.
Correct.
So cool.
So our term for that is fun fitness.
Yeah.
And through no genius of mine, the connection of your brain to balancing is phenomenal.
Yeah.
You enjoy it. And even on the cushion, the challenge to doing planks on the deck and cushion is so much more interesting mentally. And push-ups. A push-up on a hard floor is inevitably boring. A plank on a non-moving surface is ultimately boring because you got to breathe and hold, and
it sucks.
And your mind doesn't go anywhere other than think about this is fucking hard and I really don't like doing this. But you put it on the Indo Board, and your mind creates a challenge, and your mind is going, I can do this.
Mm-hmm.
I should be able to do this. And I don't know where that comes from in the mental processes, but that's exactly what happens to everybody that gets on it. I put smiles on people's face. I put them on the IndoFlow cushion in the deck, and people kind of they're trying to figure it out. I put them on the roller, and they instantly start smiling.
They love it.
Yeah, they love it. So the IndoFlow cushion to me is work, and the roller is fun, but it's fun fitness. You're just mentally integrating with the product to get more out of your workout and enjoy. And at the end of the workout, you're going, wow.
Well, that's anti-aging. A lot of this is like our good friend Tracy Alloway.
Yep.
She does a lot on working memory up at UNF and how balance affects that. And when we see an advantageous result, well, then this is considered anti-aging. This is, a longevity tool.
Yeah. Well, for seniors, the deck and the cushion.
Yep, exactly.
My mom's 95 and she has one at home and stands on it every day.
So cool.
Yeah.
Well, we got to give a chance for our listeners and our viewers a way to find you online. I know you're not the biggest social media guy, but you got to plug it all right now.
It's all out there.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
just not the one. But indoboard.com, and then hashtag Indo_board is Instagram.
Cool.
And,
awesome.
And we're on Twitter. I don't know how you access. I don't even know what that is. But indoboard.com is, we sell on Amazon. We sell off of our website. So whichever way you choose, we find that we do better on the website because people are looking for information. On Amazon, nobody gives a shit except for the price.
Yeah.
That's why we lose out to the knockoffs, is because they beat us on price. But on what we offer is far beyond what they offer. So
quality over quantity.
That's it.
Hey, only a kook would buy something besides an Indo Board, man.
I love it.
We can't thank you enough for coming into Media Zone today. And next time you come down to Palm Beach County, please pop in here. Anytime you need to film a testimonial or just want to shoot the shit.
Yeah, well, that's
come on
awesome.
in, man.
Thank you so much.
Cheers.
I'll be back. Come see my mom all the time. So I'd be thrilled to come back and White Claw out with you
all
guys.
day, baby.
Yeah, I was just going to say, tell Mom there's a White Claw in the fridge for her. Yeah.
There you go. All right. Well,
Hey,
thank you so much.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks,
It's been
guys.
a pleasure, man. Thank you.